This is a short-ish story from this book called The World's Worst Children 2 by David Walliams. And this story is called Harry, Who Never, Ever Did His Homework. Harry hated homework. He did everything he could to avoid doing it. The boy had a long list of excuses he would recite to teachers explaining why he couldn't hand it in. My goldfish ate it. My mum ate it. She's been on a diet and was extremely peckish. The house was robbed by a gang of burglars, and the first thing they took was my geography exercise book. There's a big criminal black market in geography homework. Oh, my homework was deemed so superb that it went straight to the British Library, where it would be kept under glass for future generations. I left it on the back seat of my dad's car. Unfortunately, a hippopotamus escaped from the zoo and sat on the car, destroying everything inside it. My little sister is an origami master and used the pages of my exercise book to make a huge paper recreation of ancient Tokyo. It was put in a rocket and blasted into space by NASA scientists attempting to seek contact with aliens to show there is intelligent life on Earth. We were all out of loo paper, and so my Aunt Rose used it to wipe her bottom. It was struck by a bolt of lightning and it burst into a ball of flames. Secret Service agents confiscated as they said it contained a top-secret algebra equation. Because Harry never, ever did his homework, he had time to do all the fun things he wanted to do after school, like play on his games console for hours and hours, and actually that's it. Playing computer games was all the boy liked doing. If he had his way, he would play computer games all day and all night. His thumbs working the controller, the boy would laugh to himself, ha ha ha, as he thought about his classmates having to do their homework while he drove racing cars through the streets of Monte Carlo, or flew through space shooting lasers, or scored the winning goal in the World Cup. The boy had not handed in his homework for so many years that his teachers had all given up on him. However, one day, a new teacher arrived at the school. A mysterious old history teacher called Madame Magna. This lady was dressed from head to toe in black, with a lace scarf covering her head, which all but obscured her eyes. Madame Magna smelled like an old, musty book that you might find in a jumble sale, and she spoke with a thick foreign accent that nobody could quite place. Rumours about the old lady swirled around the school. On her arrival, some children thought she might be a witch. Others thought she was a time traveller who had actually lived through all these moments in history that she taught. Guesses about her age ranged from 70 to 700. Even the other teachers kept their distance from her. At lunchtime, Madame Magna sat alone under a tree, smoking a long pipe. The plumes of smoke would float in the air and swirl into shapes of people or animals. Madame Magna turned pipe smoking into an art. Our story begins on the day Harry had his first lesson with the new teacher. Madame Magna was teaching the children all about the various methods of medieval torture. As the bell rang, Harry was first to leap up out of his chair. "Homework in first thing tomorrow," announced Madame Magna. "Harry, would you stay behind, please?" Harry let out a huge sigh. "Oh, what now, miss?" "Madame." "Oh, what now, madame?" "It has come to my attention that you have never once handed in your homework." "Well, madam," Harry began. He was very experienced at giving teachers the brush off with some ridiculous excuse, so was not too worried. "That is strange, because I did do it all. Maybe the words just fell off the pages in my exercise book." Madame Magna took out her pipe and stuffed the end with tobacco. Slowly she lit it with a match and blew a huge cloud of foul-smelling smoke into the boy's face. Harry coughed and spluttered as the smoke swirled around him. The boy was sure he could see shapes of knights in armour on horseback, jousting in the smoke. However, no sooner had he seen the vision than it was gone. Well, Harry, you are quite the joker. But if you don't do your homework tonight, you may be visited by apparitions in the dead of night." The boy was unnerved by this. "What do you mean, madame?" You will see for yourself. You are the master of your destiny. Can I go now, madam? Yes. The old lady took another long drag on her pipe and blew a huge, thick cloud of smoke right in the direction of the boy. This time he was sure he could see camels and slaves and the pyramids of ancient Egypt. Harry coughed and sputtered again. When the smoke had cleared, she was gone. Harry was seriously spooked. What did the mysterious Madame mean by apparitions in the dead of night? The boy ran all the way home, and as soon as he was in his bedroom, he rummaged in his school bag for his history exercise book. It was all but empty of work. Harry had been doodling instead of making notes for the most of the term. The history homework, or homework, that Madame Magna had set for the evening was an essay. Who is the greatest villain in the history of the world? Harry realised the teacher meant world. The boy pondered the question for a while. The problem was he hadn't listened to a word, or even a word, she had said in class. So Harry hadn't the faintest idea who to write about. The boy knew that Darth Vader was a villain, but was pretty sure that he'd been made up rather than being a figure from world history. Harry scratched his head, then chewed his pen, then picked his nose. He did lots of things other than his homework. In no time, he had discarded his exercise book and was back playing his games on his games console, saving the galaxy or destroying the galaxy or such nonsense. When Harry finally went to bed, he'd forgotten all about his history homework and the teacher's strange premonition. After hours of playing computer games, the boy was tired and went straight to sleep. A deathly chill passed through his room in the middle of the night. It woke Harry up. Excuse me a second. Thank you. It woke Harry up. Opening his eyes, he saw that a huge cloud of silky grey smoke had filled the room. The smoke was swirling and swirling into shapes, and finally settled on to create 5 terrifying figures, all in historical clothing. "Who are you?" demanded the boy. "We are the greatest villains in history," said one in a suit of armour, carrying a mighty sword. "I, of course, need no introduction. I am Attila the Hun." "I've never heard of you, mate," replied Harry. "Well, you should have done," replied Attila. He was not at all pleased that this boy had no idea who he was. "I was the most feared ruler in Europe and waged war on everyone." "I'll take your word for it," murmured Harry. He then turned to the next figure. Who are you? Who are you?" "I, boy, need no introduction," said the man as he swelled his cape. "Yeah, you do. I've never seen you before in my life. Does the name Vlad the Impaler mean nothing to you?" "No." "Well, 500 years ago, I impaled everyone in sight." "Good for you. Next." "I'm surely the worst villain in all history," said a theatrical man in a white robe with a crown of gold leaves on top of his head. "So what's your name?" "Caligula. I was emperor of the Roman Empire. But more than that, a god." "Oh, here he goes again," muttered Attila. "But I murdered far more people," said a flamboyantly dressed figure in a white wig. "Let me introduce myself, child, as you clearly are something of an ignoramus. I am Robespierre, the leader of the French Revolution. I executed thousands of people, including some of my closest friends." "Why did you do that?" asked Harry. "If you didn't like them, then why not just never text them back? After a while, they'd have got the message." "This was the 1790s. We didn't have mobile telephones then, you buffoon." Came a voice sitting in the corner of Harry's bedroom. It was a heavy-looking man with a long grey beard. "You are all nobodies compared to me." "Who are you?" asked Harry. "I know you jest with me, child. I am Genghis Khan, ruler of the Mongol Empire. As I swept across the world, my armies killed millions of people. Who cares about a few less Frenchies? Pah!" With that, Genghis Khan spat on the floor. Robespierre was fuming. "How dare you? Some spit landed on my tights. Wipe it off at once." "I will not," replied Genghis. "Ooh," cooed Caligula, mocking them. "Come on now, girls. Let's not fall out." "Shut up," ordered Harry. The world's worst villains were stunned into silence. No one had ever told them to shut up before. "Now, can you please tell me what you're all doing here in my bedroom? I'd rather you didn't kill me if you don't mind, because I've just got to level 8 of my game." All the villains laughed. Kill you, said Vlad. As if we would do such a thing, added Genghis. So what are you going to do? Demanded Harry. We are going to make you do your homework, announced Robespierre. Oh no, replied the boy. Oh yes, said Attila. Not fair, said Harry. All night the villains stood over the boy as he was forced to do his history homework. Just as Harry would write a sentence, a violent argument would break out between the villains. But you can't begin a sentence with but, Robespierre bawled. You just did, Vlad the Impaler replied, before impaling the leader of the French Revolution. Slowly but surely, the essay began to take shape. The villains were more than happy to give the boy the facts and figures he needed as they boasted about their awful achievements. The guillotine was a very effective way of putting all the French nobility to death, Robespierre bragged. How mind-numbingly dull, Caligula replied. In ancient Rome, I threw people into the arena where they would be eaten alive by bears and lions. Much more fun. So as not to cause any more violent arguments, Harry didn't choose anyone as the absolute worst villain of all time. Instead he wrote, in conclusion, Vlad, Caligula, Genghis, Robespierre and Attila were all as bad as each other. The villains seemed happy with that and murmured in agreement. I still think I was worst, uttered the ruler of the Mongol Empire. Shut up, Genghis, said Harry. As the sun rose in the morning, history had been made. Harry had completed his first ever piece of homework. I hope you get top marks, Harry, said Vlad. And bon chance for your exams, added Robespierre. Harry looked at the Frenchman blankly. It means good luck, added the leader of the French Revolution. Thank you, I will try. Maybe try and do your French homework from now on too. Yeah, all right, replied the boy in a strop. You do too much playing on this computer game, doodah, declared Genghis. I know, agreed Harry. Promise me you'll cut down the hours on it, said Caligula. I promise, replied the boy. Our work here is done, gentlemen, and of course, Vlad, said Robespierre. Adieu. Just as the villains had appeared in a cloud of smoke, they disappeared in one too. Despite all their craziness, Harry was going to miss having them around. Although he'd had a sleepless night, the boy skipped into school in the morning and couldn't wait to hand in his homework to his history teacher. Madame Magna read it eagerly and was mightily impressed. This is wonderful! Absolutely wonderful! She exclaimed as she puffed on her pipe. Thanks, madam. Is this all your own work, or did anyone help you with it? Inquired the teacher with a wry smile. I had a tiny bit of help. Yes, I know, boy, replied Madame Magna before blowing a huge plume of smoke into the classroom. It took the shape of the 5 most evil villains in history, Vlad, Caligula, Genghis, Robespierre and Attila. They all smiled at Harry. Just as Madame Magna hobbled off down the corridor, the boy called after her. But just so you know, this whole homework thing was just a one-off. The lady stopped and turned back to Harry. Is that so? She replied. Yeah, I won't be doing it again. What a shame. I know you would so enjoy tonight's homework. It's all about our old friend Boudica, the ancient British queen who led the revolt against the Romans. Gosh, that sounds so boring. Well, let's hope she doesn't make a little visit tonight in her chariot. Madame Magna smiled and puffed on her pipe. The corridor was filled with thick black smoke. It swirled into the shape of a queen riding a chariot pulled by her 2 powerful horses. The wheels on the chariot had razor-sharp blades that could chop your legs off in a heartbeat. The chariot was travelling at enormous speed and the blades were coming right towards Harry. Death to Romans! Shouted Boudica. The boy was trembling with fear. All right, I'll do it. What a good boy, replied Madame Magna. The lady inhaled on her pipe and Queen Boudica vanished. Harry watched as his teacher made her way down the corridor. With every step, she became fainter and fainter until Madame Magna melted into thin air. The teacher disappeared as mysteriously as she had appeared. From that day on, Harry always did his homework. He never wanted to see that terrifying teacher again.